Hi YouTube and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video we're going to look at how you can discover what semi-structured data you may have in your data lake using Snowflake. This can be an arduous and laborious task, especially if you don't actually know what's within these files, which may be hard to read without using specific applications or downloading them from your data lake or samples of them. Looking what the column structure is like, looking if it's useful before you even decide, and then is it worthwhile bringing into Snowflake. Before you can bring it into Snowflake, of course, you need to create a table as well. So we're going to look at how you can use some of Snowflake's native out-of-the-box features and functions to firstly discover what data exists within your semi-structured files as part of our demo coming up in a moment. As well as once we've discovered that, how do you then dynamically generate the DDL to create your tables before copying that data from your data lake into Snowflake? Understanding each of those functions, how you combine them together, allows you to make what is currently a time-consuming and complex task simple, streamlined, and above all, automated and easy to use. So I hope you find this video useful. So first up, let me give you a quick rundown and bring you up to speed in terms of what we're working with right here. So we've created our environment. So what does that really mean? Well, in Snowflake, we've created a database, we've created a storage integration, and then we've described that integration in order for us to get the specific storage AWS IAM user on and storage AWS external ID. We've then flipped across to our AWS console. We've went into that particular policy. We've updated the trust relationships by entering those values in there. We already had a bucket set up with the correct privileges set up. So we've got all of that kind of underpinning and trust and relationship secured between Snowflake and AWS. We've also created this bucket, AM bucket 123. In here, I have a folder called test. Within this test folder, I have a Parquet file with some information about models of cars, which we'll see later in the demo. So for now, imagine this is your data lake and you've got thousands and thousands of files in, let's say, Parquet, but it could equally be in JSON or Avro and so on. And if you look at the corresponding article, we'll go into more detail around the theory behind all of this. So we've got a lot of data. We want to understand what's in these particular files. We haven't got time to go off and download these and put them into a different application. So what do? Well, in Snowflake, we create our stage, leverage that storage integration that we've created up here, which is essentially a pointer to that bucket location. Notice that we're directing it to the bucket, but also to the test folder. Once we've created that, and I'm not going to rerun these statements again because that does change these values here that we need to add back into our AWS account. So this has already been done and executed and set up. So I am going to show my stage, run that command, proves that my stage is there, shows me where I'm pointing to, and it says it's external and the region is going to in the cloud provider. I can then list my files from that stage. Now, at this point, running this code in this sequential fashion, this is the first time you're actually testing those privileges work for real, because you're actually running the list command against that S3 bucket, and Snowflake's returning the metadata to show you I've got this empty cars file, here's the size, here's the MD5 checksum, and this is when it was last modified. It's at this point in the script, if you've done anything wrong in terms of configuring your IAM users and policies and all the trust permissions between Snowflake, which can seem daunting at first, but it's at this point you will find out if it actually works or not, and if you need to go back and adjust anything. For us, this is all up and running, this is working. So now we're going to go on and we're going to create a file format. We're just very basic, creating a file format for the Parquet file type, because when we need to work with data with Snowflake that's out on a data lake or even in an internal stage, Snowflake needs to know what kind of file it's dealing with, so you need to provide some helpful hints in terms of how to interpret that file. That's called a file format. And if you want to know more about that, I'll pop a link to the video on that at the top of the screen. Okay, so moving on now, we are going to run this function in Snowflake called infer_schema. Table function, as you can see, and we're going to pass in the location. So we're going to point into the stage. We're going to leverage that file format to tell it's a Parquet file. Running this then, inspects that file and returns, as we can see here, the column name, the data type. It tells us if it's nullable. Particular expression, we'll come back to this field in a second, the file name and the order of the column sequence. It's inferring a lot of this from the data it sees within the table as the function name suggests. So stage one, we can discover files and read the data within a non-human readable data type such as Parquet. I mentioned earlier on it does Avro, Arc, and so on, and I go into more detail in that in the corresponding article, which you can find on my LinkedIn newsletter or on my Medium page as well. Okay, so next step is now we're going to use another function. Well, a couple of functions. So we've got generate column description. This is the key one I want to point out. Array ag and object construct. Outside the scope of this video, go and look them up on Snowflake if you want to know more. And I would encourage you to do that. I'm not going to get into so much detail about that today. But now I'm going to combine this generate column description with the infer schema, execute this, and now we're getting somewhere, getting closer to being able to generate the DDL automatically for a table and potentially create it and then load data into it from our data lake, which would be a superb result. So now if I click on this, you can see now we're getting closer. We've got a column name, we've got a data type. So the generate column description is doing what it says on the tin, strangely enough, and coming up with the list of columns and data types, which is going to help us create the DDL for our table. So let's get down to that now. So a new way of creating tables, relatively new in Snowflake, is using create table using template, and that expects something like this kind of infer schema function to pass in some data, and it can actually generate a table based upon that metadata that it's seeing. So remember, back up here, we're running the infer schema. It's passing in this in a structured way. It's always going to be the same structure. So now the create table using template is expecting that coming in. We'll execute this. Oh, it already exists. So we're going to go create or replace. So it says table test successfully created. So let's take a look at the structure of that empty table. We've got our columns. We've got an empty table directly from just executing this statement. So this is great. We're getting somewhere now. So now we want to actually load the data from the Parquet file out on S3 in our external stage into this freshly created table. How do we do that? Well, the obvious thing to do would just be copy into test from the external stage, specify the file format, and let Snowflake take care of it. However, when we execute this statement, we get an error, and I wanted to show you this error because it's specific to the Parquet file format, and it says Parquet file format can produce one and only one column of type variant, object, or array. Load data into separate columns using the match by column name copy option or copy with transformation. And this is actually quite helpful because it's actually telling us what to do. If you go into the Snowflake documentation, take a look at how to load Parquet data, you will come up against this article, and it's saying that Parquet is expecting you to specify the column position in the select query in this format. If we go back and just scroll a bit further up to when we were looking at our data, actually I've prepared one earlier on. So this is just the query from earlier, and I'm just pulling out that expression column that we saw from previously. You can see it's in there. So we have got that data available to us in the right format that we're going to need. However, just going back and looking at the error information, it's telling us to use match by column name, which is really handy because you're providing a hint then to Snowflake to say just match it up by the column name. You've got various options to specify on the match by column name parameter. Check that out again as part of the copy options on the Snowflake documentation. I'm not going to get into too much detail now about the nuances of that. However, by adding that line, I can execute that and I pass and load 32 records. If I look into my test table, here is my vehicle data, all fully populated. You can then take each of these component parts of this query, bring it all together, and automate that using either Snowflake's native out-of-the-box capabilities such as tasks, and orchestrate this process, or use whatever dedicated data transformation tool you're working with today. So, hope you found that video useful. If you did, keep watching, keep subscribing. New videos coming very soon. Hey, it's Adam here, and I just want to jump in real quick and just give you the latest information on the Mastering Snowflake program. It's now in its third year and it's doing really well, and there's more people than ever showing interest and joining the program every single day as we enter the new year of 2024. And this has been designed really for people who are quite experienced working as an IT data professional. Most of the members on the program have between 10 and 15 years experience working with commercial databases. They're very comfortable with SQL and all of the different terminology that goes with data warehousing and running databases at an enterprise scale. And so these people, they might have scratched the surface of Snowflake. It may have intrigued them. They may have no knowledge of Snowflake, but a lot of sort of Teradata, SQL Server, Oracle on-premises experience. And they want to know, crucially, how do they leverage all of that time and money that they've invested to get to the point in their careers they are today and leverage it for the cloud with Snowflake? So I designed the program exactly for those kind of people, because back in 2017, when I first got my hands on Snowflake, I was in a very similar position. I had to learn through trial and error, testing out what worked, testing out what didn't work, and then coming up with a set of recipes that really worked in Snowflake to address common real-world challenges. And so once I had those, I packaged those up and put them into this program. And this program's certainly not about theory. Of course, I introduce what the technology and capabilities of Snowflake does, but crucially, I tell you how you can package up Snowflake's out-of-the-box capabilities to address real-world challenges. I run through with live demos. I provide you with my code, assets and templates to download and use within your own environments, or use as a starting point to customize further. You'll get access to my Everest guide to help solidify some of the knowledge that you're gonna be recipient of during the program as well. So, three different kind of areas to the program itself. One is the on-demand training portal, available 24/7 with all those downloadable assets on. It's all video content produced by myself, so you know who's delivering that. You know what the learning style is going to be like from watching these kind of YouTube videos. It's going to be direct, it's going to be to the point, and it's going to be enabling you get the maximum value for yourself, your career, and your organizations that you're working for or working with. You'll also, as a member of the program, get access to the private members only LinkedIn group. All our members globally who join the program get access to this. It allows you to ask any questions around the course, around Snowflake. That could range from interview, question and answer guidance through to other tooling, such as Matillion, DBT, Elation, Power BI, you name it. You can ask the question there, and I will help you to the best degree I can. But of course, I don't know everything. The other members then can also join in that conversation and share their own unique set of experiences, because everybody's on this journey together. Further to that, there's a weekly 60-minute group consultancy call, again hosted by myself. You can come in and it's a different vehicle for you to ask questions and get guidance and support. Different vehicle than the LinkedIn group. It provides live real-time feedback. Finally, it's a one-off investment to join the program, but once you're in, you are in for life, and you will not pay a single cent or penny more to get access to all future updates to the program. And the great thing is, we can drop things into the program as and when we see fit, based upon members' feedback or based upon new features and services Snowflake are releasing to the market, which is very frequently, if you don't know, Snowflake release new features every single month to the market. So we'll apply a lens to that and work out what's publicly available to Snowflake customers and what's going to be most impactful for our members to learn. At this point, you may be aware that I've authored a couple of books on Snowflake as well, and so you get the chance to work with me and help build this community out. In the program, we cover 10 modules. Within each module, there are a series of lessons going into real depth in each one, and we get to an advanced level of knowledge. So we try to cover everything possible from a capability perspective within Snowflake. The Snowflake lessons are continually evolving, as I mentioned, as Snowflake grows and evolves as a product as well. And a great example of that is Module 10, Developing Applications in Snowflake. We've recently added a native application demos in there, so you know how actually to package up and create your own native applications We've also got Streamlit lessons in there where we hook into the OpenAI API and actually query large language models in Snowflake. We also hook into the Snowpark API and work with Snowflake as part of those lessons. So loads of value, loads of great feedback. Here's all the lessons, loads of great feedback from various valued members who are also part of the program, because as I mentioned, once you join, you're in there and you continually get value from that, and it follows you as you and your career grows. Some of the people that joined at the outset 3.5 years ago still have access and still get continual value today. I hope you find that useful. If you want to apply, it's invitation only, and I review all applications personally. So have a look in the link in the video description, and I'd be really pleased to welcome your application to the program.